Welcome to the quest for the Green Bowl! Another epic finish to last year. We had to live through some horrors as we were dragged into the future, an apocalyptic future, but the G-Man stepped up. Remember, the Titans was able to claim the championship and save us all from the impending doom of the shadows. And that makes us really jacked for this season as we get back to the fun of fantasy football. The hope that comes with week one after the draft. 12 of us with high hopes of claiming the title. And all of us believe our teams are good enough to do so. But the fantasy gods have other plans, and we will all soon go through the highs and lows of each week. There will be heartbreak, and some of us might just go mad. There'll also be joy and celebration and the wild changes that happen as the season progresses. Now, before I get into the draft, what the oh, shh.
You thought you were rid of us. For the past year, we have searched a pathetic dimension across galaxies, discovering a history that you humans only fantasize about. Like it or not, you're all going to help us escape this wretched place so we can continue the war with the elders. But we also want to have a bit of fun with you as we watch you squirm. You're going to play your dumb game and deal with an ancient being that has started to awaken from its slumber. The only way to stop the impending doom is for the champion to bring your precious trophy to an ancient floating palace lost in the gases of this wonderful planet. But you have to earn that while you all deal with the dangers of your little areas, each with its own powers that you will learn about in time. What's in it for us, you ask? Besides watching you struggle yet again, the powers unleashed as you play will inevitably rip a hole in space-time, allowing us to escape back into the other realms. A win-win. And I don't think I will explain how the champion is supposed to save your pathetic universe either. There's no prophecy this time, just the rise of Azath.
What's going on, everybody? You thought this was going to be a normal season? Of course not. This is the quest for the Green Bowl, the rise of Azath fantasy football show with a twist. I'm your host, Anthony Yotso, and we will be on a journey through not just the fantasy football season, but also the insanity of our theme story written by yours truly. Starting next week, though, the episodes will be a little bit different. There'll be 3 videos per week, one dropping on Wednesday about the mythology and results from the previous week, one dropping on Thursday about the upcoming game of the week and the lore that goes with it, and one dropping on Sunday with various segments along with an interview with the game of the week winner from the previous week. But for this opening show, we'll start a little small. We're going to learn about the first game of the week of the season, introduce the first power rankings of 2022, and also go through my top 5 most intriguing draft picks across our league. So let's all take a trip to the Peaks of Drakos, where league rookie AR's ayahuasca plant hosts the Stellar Bitches in the Ganymede division.
There are many unknown places in the universe, but there's something special about this solar system. Something no human could ever dream about. In its past, there were so many spots for precious minerals and metals that this was a part of an ancient highway for civilizations, not only from this galaxy, but from surrounding galaxies. But something upon a planet you call Jupiter was enough for us to dig deeper. That's where you are now, on its moons, Europa, Ganymede, and Io. Each moon has several spots that have their own significance, their own history and lore, and that's where each of you are right now, ready to do our bidding while you play your precious game. We'll tell you about each of them. Then we start at a mountainous region of Ganymede, called the Peaks of Drakos. What you know as ancient Greek has roots in the names, because the language comes from a group of explorers from beyond your solar system. Earth was a popular hub back before your satellites and bombs, a place for these explorers and settlers to mingle and trade. But even these far more advanced beings were still just peons when looking at the larger picture. Drakos is actually what they eventually called an ancient creature, one that you might call a god, but what we would call a toy. Drakos, of course, is also in your mythology as a dragon, but this is not a gold-eating, fire-breathing beast. It is much, much worse for your fragile minds to comprehend. What exists here is beyond your imagination. An underground temple built for possessed beings. You see, if anyone gets too close to Drakos, it invades your mind. It can actually be whatever image it likes, but it chose fear as a means to break you. Like a virus, it spreads into your cells and tricks your bodies into doing its bidding. The so-called advanced civilizations that came to the moon to mine built the temple for Drakos to worship it. These cultists are tricked into thinking they are protecting Drakos. In reality, Drakos is feeding on the energy from their minds, eventually driving them mad with hallucinations. The husks that are left are easily manipulated, but are also there to trick others into joining the temple. Under your noses, explorers from around the universe still come to this place, only to be victims of Drakos. Why have we placed one of you here? Let's just say it was a trade. Drakos is hungry.
Of course, AR's ayahuasca plant is looking to defend his home turf here, perhaps already possessed by Drakos, we don't know, while the Stellar Bitches hope to make it out of there with their wits still intact. Both teams are high on the preseason power rankings, so this is expected to be a very close one. In fact, the computers also think so, as this is a 50-50 toss-up. There are some spots to watch. We got Dak Prescott versus Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, Chargers versus Broncos defense, Derrick Henry versus Aaron Jones at running back. But there is a player on each team that I see as a catalyst for a potential win. Starting with the visiting team, the Stellar Bitches have running back Javonte Williams. Williams comes in with a lot of hype The talent's there. He finished with 903 rushing yards, 316 receiving yards, and 7 total touchdowns last year. He averaged 4.4 yards per carry and 7.3 yards per reception. But just like last year, he's got Melvin Gordon to contend with in a committee. Gordon is a bruiser that accounted for 918 yards rushing, 213 yards receiving, and 10 total touchdowns. He had 4.5 yards per carry, 7.6 yards per reception. So why is Williams going to be anything more than a TD-dependent RB2? Because Russell Wilson's now behind center in Denver. Wilson has used bruising backs in the past, and he is best off the play action, meaning that there should be 15 touches for both Williams and Gordon per game, with a hotter hand possibly getting more. Still, until we see results, Williams reminds me of the stellar bitch's other back, Derrick Henry, who was also in a committee before taking over the top spot in Tennessee. And in those seasons, Henry was a fantasy flyer. Eventually, you would think that Williams gets this chance to run the show, but barring injury, the bitches need him to score. And if he scores twice, then there just might be a 1 in the win column after this one. But then we have the home team, AR's ayahuasca plants. He brings us running back Elijah Mitchell out of his flex position. The Bears used to be a matchup to avoid for running backs, but those days are well in the past. They aren't the worst at stopping the run, but they're in the middle of the pack based on last year. And they allowed 9 rushing touchdowns last season. Mitchell showed off his skills as a rookie last year, playing in 11 games, rushing for 963 yards and 5 TDs. He averaged 4.7 yards per carry. Imagine what he could have done with 6 more games. The caveat is that he has a little more competition for touchdowns than usual, even in the zone running scheme of Kyle Shanahan's offense. Deebo Samuel was a beast rushing the ball in 2021. And with Trey Lance, a mobile quarterback under center for his first full season, things could get a little worse. Lance could also vulture scores inside the 5. Defenses might force Lance to beat him as well, stack the box. But on the flip side, teams have to scheme to slow down several guys. And Shanahan is someone who gets creative with his zone blocking outside run schemes. Mitchell also did get some goal line carries when healthy. In this matchup, if Mitchell avoids being vultured inside the 5, then it could mean a nice game out of the flex and a potential key for putting a 1 in the win column of AR's ayahuasca plant. The question will be, can Trey Lance consistently get into the red zone? Regardless, it should be a fun battle. But there are some other opening season games in our league that are going to probably be very good as well. And I'll briefly go over them here. The other Ganymede division match is between the host multiple scoregasms and Remember the Titans, the Secret Sea of Galanis. Remember the Titans is the defending champion led by Saquon Barkley, and the multiple scoregasms have the #1 pick in the draft with Jonathan Taylor. Scoregasms come in with a 64.3% chance to win. Moving on to the Europa division, the Clash at Demon Head hosts the Dark Ridge Dreamers at the Swirling Skies at Havard Point. The Dreamers were last season's runner-up and are led by Justin Jefferson. The Clash at Demon Head look to make a playoff run after missing out last year, led by Christian McCaffrey. The Dreamers come in with a 53.4% chance to win. In another nice matchup in Europa, Loki Lebowski Thor hosts last season's 4th place finisher, Uncle Justy, at the Salt Mines of Thorgard. Uncle Justy has moved into a new division quartet from the last few seasons and is led by Jamar Chase. Lebowski Thor is led by Dalvin Cook. Lebowski Thor actually enters with a 53.7% chance to win. Moving on to the EO division, league rookie, the Elite Mother Tuckers, hosts last year's 6th place finisher, Green Acres, at the volcanic plateaus of Vulcan. The Elite Mother Tuckers are led by Austin Eckler, and Green Acres is led by Najee Harris. The Elite Mother Tuckers come in with a huge 61.4% chance to win. Finally, former champion Risky Business hosts last season's consolation champion, the Siamese Dreamcats, at the Sulphur Mines of Barbara. Risky Business is led by Joe Mixon. The Dreamcats are led by Cooper Kupp. The Cats actually have a 52.3% chance to win here. But while we know who leads these teams, before we finish this show, let's look at some of the top 5 draft picks that might be surprisingly the difference between the playoff berth being on the outside looking in. Number 5, Marquise Hollywood Brown, Arizona wide receiver for my Dark Ridge Dreamers. Brown has a lot of speed, but was capped in Baltimore, an offense that ran the ball a lot and also didn't have as good of a deep passer. Kyler Murray has been more efficient with deep passes than Lamar Jackson. On passes of 20 or more air yards, Murray has a 47% completion percentage to Jackson's 29%. Murray's skill will allow Brown to use his speed more than he could with Baltimore. Also, DeAndre Hopkins is suspended for 6 games to start the season. That means Brown will be the guy for 6 weeks, getting several targets. Even when Hopkins returns, that might just help Brown more, with the defenses needing to take both away. Brown is ranked as the number 24 wide receiver and was taken with the 43rd pick in the 4th round of our draft. So he was picked about where he should have been based on perceived value. But he has wide receiver 1 numbers, then the value not only goes up, but it could also help offset the lack of quality running backs on my Dreamers roster. That would go a long way to getting me back to the Green Bowl. Coming in at number 4, Jamar Chase, Cincinnati wide receiver for Uncle Justy. Chase was projected as a top 5 draft pick in some circles, but no one had him dropping all the way to number 11. But in this league, people valued running backs a lot higher. Now, Uncle Justy gets a guy who lit up the stat sheets at the end of last season with multiple beast games. It also allowed him to take a very comparable RB1 and Alvin Kamara in round 2. Unheard of value for someone picking 11th in the draft. Chase was actually ranked 2nd ahead of Cooper Kupp for some experts, and he has a great rapport with quarterback Joe Burrow. As a rookie, he piled up 1,455 yards, 13 touchdowns, receiving several 50-plus yard scores as well, and that's a bonus point in our league. He also caught 81 passes, and that's with a team that has a good running back in Joe Mixon and other good targets in T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. And Burrow should get more time to throw now with a better offensive line. Now, while we shouldn't be surprised that Chase is a reason that Uncle Justy finally gets past the semifinals, when you realize that Chase fell to him at number 11, though, it gets you thinking about all the teams that passed him up. Coming in at number 3, Ezekiel Elliott, Dallas running back for the Siamese Dreamcats. Remember when Elliott was a top 3 draft pick? It wasn't that long ago. Yes, I know Tony Pollard came on the scene and has done well, but when Elliott is healthy and Dallas has a healthy Dak Prescott under center, he is still a bruiser who can get many goal line carries per game. And for a running back of this quality to fall to the 22nd pick in the 2nd round, that seems unheard of, especially in our league. He topped 1,000 yards, had 10 touchdowns a season ago. And just 2 years ago, he had over 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns. Pollard does take away potential receiving numbers and will vulture the occasional 50-plus yard score, but Elliott is still the bell cow. He averaged over 15 touches a game, and if he gets back to the 4.7 yards per carry average he had in 2018, he could end up putting in top 10 running back numbers, which would make his draft pick a huge value. The Dreamcats are looking to build from the consolation championship last season, and a great season by Elliott could end up being enough to put her back in the playoffs after missing out a year ago. Coming in at number 2, James Conner, Arizona running back for the multiple scoregasms. Speaking of running backs, the multiple scoregasms might have also gotten a steal with the RB2 and James Conner. Conner does not have Chase Edmonds to contend with anymore for touches, and he had some great games when Edmonds was injured a season ago. Conner didn't follow up his breakout season on Pittsburgh with a good year, but he also was on a worse offense. He gets to be the lead guy on an offense that might be one of the best if this year's version of Kyler Murray can put together 17 games instead of just 9. Conner had 752 yards rushing and a mind-boggling 15 touchdowns last year. He also had 3 receiving scores. While the TD numbers are sure to come down, the yardage total and touches should come up, especially with Edmonds gone. The Scoregasms had the top pick and took Jonathan Taylor. So If Connor puts up RB1 numbers, that would be a scary duo to face every week. And that would go a long way to have the Scoregasms go from one of the worst teams to first this season as they try to return to the playoffs after a rare absence in 2021. Finally, at number 1, A.J. Brown, Philadelphia wide receiver for Remember the Titans, the G-Man. Of course, A.J. Brown's going to a new team this year. He showed off a lot of skill with Tennessee, but he had some injuries. And of course, last season he had just 869 yards and just 5 touchdowns in 13 games. Not the best. But he also was on a team that liked to run with Derrick Henry. And the Eagles don't have any running backs as he's on Philadelphia now. And of course, they also have Jalen Hurts, a young quarterback that showed off a lot of skill, a lot of under-the-radar fantasy skill last season. But for our league's defending champion, he picked Brown with a number 39 overall pick in the 4th round. If Brown can get back to his 2020 production when he had over 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns, that could be a huge supplement to a team that took 2 running backs and a tight end in the first 3 rounds. A wide receiver 1 season by Brown would be a big reason why Remember the Titans is a contender again. But like all the draft picks, only time will tell. And that's the show for the week. I hope you enjoyed it. Next week, we'll start the new schedule with videos dropping Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday. The season's back, everyone. Until next time, salut. And of course, check out the power rankings headed into week 1.